Gonna be completely honest here. I've been a little bored in the offseason. The Penguins haven't really been doing much, which is, expected. It's the offseason. The last thing that the Penguins did was sign Matt Bartkowski and Brian Boyle and Louis Domingue, which I did a video sort of on. But Tyler Bozak, maybe. That'll be coming in the next couple of weeks. Penguins have been linked to him. Center depth is depleted with Crosby and Malkin hurt right now. So in the offseason here, we still got a couple more weeks until the season starts. I want to go over my picks for the Penguins 2021-2022 line combinations. Now, the Penguins are missing two of their biggest players right now with Crosby and Malkin injured. I will be going over what I think the Penguins will open the season with at the end, and I'll be starting with a fully healthy projection of what I would put out there if I was Mike Sullivan, which thankfully for the entirety of Pittsburgh, I am not. And I know the Penguins will never be fully healthy because that's just not a thing that will happen, but we can hope. So we'll start it off here with the easy ones. Crosby, Malkin, and then Carter and Blueger are pretty much all but confirmed to be your 1, 2, 3, 4 centers. I don't think there's any argument about that at all. And the only reason that one of those players would not be in those positions would be due to injury. Which begs the question, though, the Penguins, have Crosby and Malkin out right now. If you sign Brian Boyle or Tyler Bozak, and then the Penguins finally, hopefully, get healthy, what do you do with them? Does Boyle just end up, staying in or leaving and retiring, pulling a Yannick Weber, being a patchwork player, and then just gone when we're, done with the injuries? If the Penguins sign Tyler Bozak, that probably won't happen because he definitely still has a couple more years left in the NHL, and I don't think he can play wing, at least very well. So do you move Carter over to the wing? What do you do? Crosby and Guentzel have to play together. That is a given. I am very excited about Jake Guentzel this season. The last time the Penguins played an 82-game season, Jake Guentzel scored 40 goals. So, Guentzel definitely I'm very excited about this season. Bryan Rust as well. I don't think he plays with Crosby. These are my lines, not Sullivan's lines. But I think Rust will probably play with Crosby, maybe even Simone, because, oh God. But I would like to see Rust back with Malkin, especially in his contract year. Both of their contract years, technically. Malkin and Rust are both UFAs at the end of the season, which I'm worried about. But Rust is proven himself to be a top 6 winger in the league, and I think he may even be able to get Evgeni Malkin out of the dumps when he was slacking off and not living up to his potential. I like those two together. I want them to be up there. So who goes on the first line with Crosby then? I'm going with Jason Zucker, who will play his off wing. Maybe he'll switch with Guentzel, but Zucker needs to bounce back after a horrendous season last year. Battled with injuries, yes, but even when he was in the lineup, he just did not look good. Him and Malkin didn't really have much chemistry. I think the only other reasonable player that you can put him with is Sidney Crosby, or maybe Jeff Carter, but I want him to be a top 6 winger on this team and live up to the price that the Penguins paid for him. They Kalen Addison and a first-round pick for this guy, and I really hope Zucker can bounce back, because if he doesn't, I don't know if there's a spot on him for this team anymore. And then Kasperi Kapanen, again, maybe playing his off wing, maybe Rust shifts with him, plays on the second line with Malkin. We saw a lot of chemistry with Malkin and Kapanen last season. I think it continues, and they play together for as long as they remain healthy together, which hopefully will happen when Malkin comes back. So, McCann and Tanev left this offseason, and in free agency, Danton, Heinen, and Brock McGinn were essentially brought in to replace them. I think both of those players are third-line players. So I think it'll be Carter, Heinen, and McGinn. I'm very excited about both of these players, but more specifically, Danton Heinen, because I think he's super underrated. Penguins got him for a cheap prove-yourself contract, and you never know with these young players. He's still very young. And, recently he had some pretty good seasons earlier on in his career, and I think he's an underlooked player. Also, Ryan Donato, Penguins, go sign him. And then Brock McGinn is essentially going to be the Tanev replacement. He's not going to be as energetic as Tanev, but I'm excited for him, and I think he'll do very good in the Penguin system. So, Blueger, Aston, Reese, and Tanev, right? Aston Reese will definitely play with Blueger, getting a new contract, both of them. And I think that's going to be the next Penguins, fourth line, at least for the next 5-ish years. Aston, Reese, and Blueger are perfect fourth line players. So who fills up the last spot here in your guys' opinion? Is it Evan Rodrigues? Is it Sam Lafferty? Is it Radim Zahorna? Is it Samuel Poulin or Nathan Legare? For me right now, not only based on what I think Sullivan will do, but just in my opinion, I think it should be Evan Rodrigues. I know he kind of gets, made fun of and things like that because of his offensive potential, and some of the plays that he makes on the ice are just strange, but I think he's a good player and a talented player. I do not think he's a top 6 player. I think putting him on the fourth line would be a very good, addition to the Penguins. I wish Brandon Tanev was there, but I think that's a pretty decent forward group. But it's not anything special. If Jason Zucker can turn things around and be a 30-goal scorer, 35-goal scorer, this could be a very deadly offense, but I don't know if I necessarily see it. The biggest red flags I have here is Zucker, and I think if he struggles 10, 15 games in, you take him out of the top 6, and you maybe even take him out of the lineup and try and trade him, because he's on a very short leash right now, in my opinion, and he needs to get going, and that's my X factor for the offense. Now, the defense is a little easier to put together because we already know our first pairing is Dumoulin and Letang, as it has been for years and years on end. But things get interesting when we go to the second pairing. Now, Cody Ceci left in free agency, and Matheson and Ceci were a very good defensive pairing for the Penguins, and I really liked watching that last season, and I'm very upset that they're no longer together. Pettersson and Marino was the other, pairing that was together for the most way. Do you keep Pettersson and Marino together? I say no, because they were probably the Penguins' weakest defensive pairing last season, so I'm going to split them up and put Marino and Matheson together, which I don't like either because both of them have been, prone to defensive mistakes, but I don't know because we don't even know, we'll get to that later, who our 6th defenseman is. But as of right now, I would start with Matheson and Marino. And I am really, really hoping that John Marino is able to bounce back from what was a down year last year. And I know he's only been in the league 2 years, but based off of his rookie year, this was a down year. He had a sophomore slump. It wasn't horrendous, but there's so much more potential there. And I feel like John Marino could have such a good season this year that he could push for Team USA's Olympic roster. I think he has that potential. I saw it in his rookie year, and I hope the Penguins can get that same player back. He signed his extension, and he kind of just, I don't know. I didn't really like, I was not all impressed with Marino last year, and I hope he can bounce back. He's my X factor on the defense. And then Marcus Pettersson, who was not traded despite, cap space and all those things, is definitely going to be in the Penguins, 6th defenseman, but where does he play? Where does Sullivan put him? I have him on the bottom pairing with Cody Ceci's not there. Who are we putting there? Is it Chad Ruedel? Is it Juuso Riikola? Is it Mark Friedman? I think it should be Pierre-Olivier Joseph because I don't see what another year in the minors would do for him. I think he's ready, and the ELC money is gonna burn out. I think this year. I think he's an RFA after this, and I think he's ready for the NHL. 2017 was his draft class. And, he's ready. He's ready. Put him in the NHL, please. Because Chad Ruedel and Mark Friedman, while they're good defensemen, I don't see them being as good of a player that Joseph can be. And I want Joseph, to fully realize his potential. Goaltenders. Tristan Jarry will be our starter, and Casey DeSmith will be our backup. I mean, there's no argument there. But I really wish it wasn't the case. Louis Domingue was brought in as a 3rd goaltender, but I'm just putting together a game roster, not who would be the healthy scratches or things like that. And I'm not changing the roster and assuming that the Penguins are totally going to sign Tuukka Rask and put him in there. But there's my picks for what the Penguins would look like, fully healthy, which will never happen. And let me know what you think about that in the comment section down below. So I have as scratches Sam Lafferty, Brian Boyle if he does get signed, Radim Zahorna, Drew O'Connor, Samuel Poulin, Nathan Legare, Phillip Hollander, Dominic Simone, Michael Chaput, Anthony Angelo, and Tyler Bozak with a big asterisk on him because the Penguins haven't signed him yet, which they totally should. A lot of these younger names I threw up on the board because I do think they will see NHL time because the Penguins are always going to get hurt. Go check out my prospect pyramid on my thoughts on all of them and who could potentially make it into the NHL. I am kind of excited for Phillip Hollander and, of course, Pierre Olivier Joseph. On the defensive side of things, Matt Bartkowski, if he gets a contract, I don't see him in the top 6. Mark Friedman, Juuso Riikola, Chad Ruhwedel will definitely play, but not as a top 6 defenseman in my opinion. And then in net, Diorio, Lindbergh, and Louis Domingue. How quickly do we see Louis Domingue? If Tristan Jarry fumbles the first 5 games, do you bring in Louis Domingue already? Let me know in the comment section down below. Now, real quick, let's go over what this team will likely look at. Where's my black marker? What this team will likely look at to start the season. And it's not the same as this because, as I mentioned before, Evgeni Malkin and Sidney Crosby are hurt right now, which leaves Jeff Carter as our first line center. Now, I'm not going to be assuming things. I'm not going to throw in Boyle or potentially Bozak or Bartkowski in this hypothetical season start roster because they don't have contracts yet. So I'm not going to, assume anything here. I think Guentzel still plays with Carter. And then I think Rust is, again, going to be split up. And then I'll just throw Zucker on the right wing there as well, and then Kapanen in there as well. Now, here's where things get sort of interesting. I don't think Teddy Blueger, as good as he is a second-line center. I know injuries are a thing, and you might have to throw him up there. But I think the ice time for him is more, he's better a player when he has, lesser ice time with, third and fourth line minutes. So I'm not putting him as a second-line center, which logically you would just bump everyone up. I'm putting Evan Rodrigues there because he's played, top 6 positions before. He has played center when the Penguins have been hurt before. He's played center in Buffalo before. And, for right now, I think the Penguins can get by with Evan Rodrigues as their second-line center because, as I mentioned before, Bryan Rust can carry a line by himself, in my opinion. So that leaves Heinen with Blueger and McGinn. And then Zach Aston Reese will, of course, be in the lineup as well. Can he play center? I don't really know. Let me know if you guys know. Because maybe you put him as a center. I think he's more suitable as a winger. Again, I'm not assuming that Boyle will make the team, so I'm going to put Sam Lafferty here because he has been a center in years past. Maybe Phillip Hollander goes into that fourth line spot, and then, Radim Zohorna is going to have to play, and that will be the temporary, at least for 1 week or maybe 2 into the season, Penguins roster, which, knowing the Penguins, they're going to go undefeated because why not? I'm not even changing anything with the defense or goaltendings because there's no injuries there, and that is what I think it'll look like. So thank you all for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the Penguins line combinations to start the season and what your line combinations would be for a fully healthy Penguins roster. I am not allowing you to make any trades or sign any players outside of Bozak, Boyle, or Bartkowski. And I'm allowing you to call up players as well. So there's your homework assignment.